This is the third variation of the right angle cross of the vessel of love, 46, 25, 15, 10. The 46th gate, this is the gate of serendipity, to be in the right place at the right time. And of course, this is the mystery of the existential, experiential life. To be there, to be in it, and out of that comes great good fortune. The good fortune does not come from what you do. It comes from how you do it. So by being in the experience, no matter what the experience is, out of that comes the advantage to the abstract being. This is why this channel, this tantric channel of the 4629, is the channel of discovery, of succeeding where other people fail or failing where other people succeed. And the failure comes from not being yourself. And the failure comes to all abstract processes when the existential is forsaken, when the experience is interfered with, and then there's no opportunity for reward or reflection. In this place in the wheel, you will notice that from the 46th gate onward, all the gates that follow it until the first hexagram are all gates of the spleen. For the ancients, in terms of the I Ching was divided up by the 64 gates into 8 groupings that are variously called houses or fields. And each of the gates of the vessel of love are the lead hexagrams of these houses and fields. That is, the lower trigram of all 8 are the same. So this love of the body is the lead hexagram for the entire immune system. And it's why it has this particular importance in our nature. It means that if you are not in the right place at the right time, you will get sick. That if you're not in the right place at the right time, you will be unhealthy. This goes back to our discussions of timing. To be in the right place at the right time is to be yourself entering into experience. Living your definition, your design, living your type, living your authority. Only then can you experience serendipity. You can never be in the right place when you choose it. Never. It is what happens. Good fortune that may be perceived as the result of serendipity but derives from effort and dedication. I always tell people I'm lucky. They always tell me it seems I work hard. It seems to be the same thing. The fact of the matter is, when you're living out your nature, you're always lucky. Always. Always. Line 1. Being discovered. I love this line. It's kind of Hollywood-like, you know. Schwab's drugstore. Dedication in obscurity that is unexpectedly discovered. This is the theme of all abstract processes. Neptune exalted, fuzzy, fuzzy. Art for art's sake. Any creative endeavor that is self-fulfilling sooner or later is recognized. That is the potential for creative success through dedication to the thing. You know, you like to paint pictures of strawberries. And you do it because you're crazy and obsessed, and that's what you have to do. And you don't care if anybody likes them. You don't care if anybody wants them. You don't care if anybody needs them. You don't expect anything from it. You just have to do it because there's nothing else for you to do but paint strawberries. And one day somebody comes along and discovers you and says you're the best strawberry painter they've ever seen, and you get an exhibit in New York and you sell your strawberry paintings for $100,000 each. Now that's true for everyone who is abstract. The moment that you just let yourself be there. See, remember, there's no truth in the abstract process. It's not like you can know what you're doing. It's not like you understand what you're doing. You're just doing. And the sense of it comes later. The value of it comes later. But the moment you say, as an abstract person, I am painting this picture because, you're trying to be logical. You're trying to say, in the future, somebody's going to like this and buy it. This is the inherent expectation in everything abstract. The moment that that is the perspective, that's the moment that you don't do the painting anymore. That the not self does the painting. And the not self paints like shit. This is the magic of really being an artist, is the recognition that the muse paints, that the muse sings, that the muse plays. The Jupiter in detriment, the ability to judge the potential of those in obscurity, but often solely to benefit one's own success. That is the determination to recognize and benefit from the success of others. By the way, it's the same thing. If you go out looking for something, you don't find it. But if you're just minding your own business, all of a sudden you can discover all kinds of things. And that is the nature of what this first line and the nature of this hexagram is all about. And it's a great lesson for every abstract person to learn. That success for you, real success for you, will come as long as you enjoy doing what you do for the doing. And only for the doing. And of course that can't come to you unless you enter into that doing properly, based on who you are. The second line, the prima donna. The prima donna is always in the right place at the right time and doesn't know it. And the moment that somebody tells them that, you're great, you're in the right place at the right time, they have a lot of power. A difficult and demanding nature that succeeds despite its behavior because of the depth of its talents. The determination to succeed that may offend others. I'm in my experience, leave me alone. Don't bother me. In order for me to be in my experience, I need to have the very best suite, the best food. Everything has to be there for me. Make sure I got a nice limo. And then I can be in my experience. And don't bother me. Just make sure all that stuff is there. Mars in detriment. Unrealistic demands, an offensive nature of egocentric mediocrity. I love to read this line to people who have it. I do. I love it. I love it. The determination to be treated as a success before it's been realized. It's not their fault. They can't be any other way. They are prima donnas. They are. And it's okay. But the secret to that is that the people who call them out, if you have the right people calling you out, that aspect of your nature isn't going to offend. It will be offensive, but the person who called you out will like it. How many prima donnas who can be very offensive, have managers and agents who love it. Oh yeah, she's a bitch, but she's great. Because they're the right person for that bitch. This is the whole thing about understanding that when you live out your own nature, you get those people in your life who accept you as you are. And they're not going to find that offensive. They're just as offensive as you are. Isn't that nice? Third line. Projection. The moon exalted. It says a practical approach to good fortune that maintains the same patterns and attitudes that brought success and does not get sidetracked in indulging in further expectations. That is the determination to stay with what brings success. Very difficult for the third line. You know, it gets into something and then the bond gets broken and then it has to jump out. So what it learns is that the most important thing is that once you find a way to get into something that you can really be in it, that's always going to be the best way. Because it learns very quickly there's so many distractions and so many people that they cannot function with. Mars and detriment, a tendency through projection to treat a potential future as the present, leading to unjustified egoism and a loss of momentum and support. The determination to treat a projected success as a reality. That is, these people are, when they enter into something, they are entering into that to be there in the right place at the right time, and then somebody distracts them and pulls them out of that. And out of that comes problems. And then they try again. And they eventually discover that there are certain kinds of people that allow them to manifest or generate, allow them to get this out. However, what happens is that the moment that they recognize that, they start to become expectation people. If I meet the right person, then I'm going to be able to do this and that and this and that and that and that and blah, da, 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 da. And of course, it's a natural byproduct of their learning curve. They keep on banging into the wrong person. When they find the right way to enter in, they become addicted to that. And of course, they can't stay with it because it's the third line, because the bond will get broken anyway. And the next time they're saying, but the next time, if I go in with this person, then it's all going to work. Automatically, it will not. Because the moment that you have the expectation is the moment that you're going to miss the whole point. It's never about what you think it's about. It's only about what you reflect on after you've experienced it. You don't know what the hell it is until it's over. This is lower trigram. And so in its collective potential, in its social potential, it's limited. The first, second, and third lines really do not grasp that there is something else. They don't grasp that the key is commitment that's in the 29th gate. What do you commit yourself to be in the right place at the right time? And who do you commit yourself to be in the right place at the right time? When you get to the fourth line, when you get to the upper trigram and you get to the transpersonal gifts, here you have somebody who's always trying to externalize. And what they're trying to externalize is to let everybody see that they're in the right place at the right time. They're trying to externalize their serendipity. I'm in the right place at the right time, don't bother me. Very hard to move these people. Impact. The earth exalted. And obviously, if you have the earth in a line or the sun in the line, you know that as an incarnation cross, that of course the cross is going to be skewered to this particular exaltation. Impact. The earth exalted. The ability once recognized to move rapidly from a position of obscurity to influence. Now think about what that is. These people are totally fixed on doing their thing because they're doing it. They don't know why they're doing it. They're just doing it. The bird doesn't know why it sings. It just sings. And then somebody comes along and says, oh, you sing so beautifully. And all of a sudden you have recognition and success. But the bird doesn't sing for a reason. It just sings. We don't speak, breathe, act for a reason. We're just alive. So the whole thing about the nature of this line of impact has tremendous power. Also in the juxtaposition cross. The whole thing about this fourth line is that it's really in it. These people get discovered. Now the secret to that is they don't get discovered and they don't have impact unless what they're into, they've entered into correctly. And I will always bring you back to that because that's the inherent truth. The manifester has to ask permission to enter into the experience. I would like to be able to try that, can I? And if it can't go through that process, it can never be in the experience properly. And it never has the opportunity for impact. Or the generator. Would you like to do this? Then they enter into the experience correctly. And that's not to forget that we have authority as well. That if the projector that has to be invited is emotional, it's very different than being splenic. Because we know in authority that the emotional system rules when it's defined, and it means no decision can be made in the moment, because there's no truth in the moment. There's no truth in the now. So if you have an emotional authority in your design, no matter what type you are, you can't just enter in. You have to begin the process, you have to wait to be clear, and then finally enter in. Then it's correct. Then what you do, you'll really do, and you'll be there. As an emotional being, by waiting before you enter into the experience, you know that you'll stay in the experience when you're down, which is so difficult for most emotional people when they're not clear. Because you've already based your clarity on thinking about entering into that experience when you are down before you make your decision. And when you're down and you're thinking about it, if it's a thing that you can deal with, you want to still be able to enter into that experience, then you can. You see, no matter what line it is, no matter how horrific it sounds, the real nature, the purity, the innocence of that line is only revealed when you enter in as yourself. And when you're reading somebody's fourth line and you're saying to them, look, all you got to do is be in the now here and do your thing and people will discover you, you're lying. Because it's not that simple. They have to be clear about how they enter into that in the first place according to their nature, otherwise it doesn't work properly. Imagine somebody conditions you to do something, you get into it and you get recognized for it, but you can't really do it because it's been conditioned. And you go through hell, and you fail, and you crash, and you suffer. Pluto and detriment, a reaction in achievement that tends to bite off the hand that fed it. The determination in success to ignore those who helped create it. This is transpersonal, and it's collective. And what happens with these beings of impact is that, of course, the moment that they are recognized, they forget about everybody else because they're so fixed on their process. And, of course, everybody else resents them. Remember what we saw in the 31.4, this line of intent. We saw that no matter what the leader does collectively, that the thing that is of value to society, that there will still be half of the people that don't like it and half of the people that do. It's just the way it is. There are so many people who resent success. They resent it. They're jealous of it. So that the moment that somebody has impact, there are all these people around saying, yes, they had this impact because of me, which of course is not true. It's not because of anything. When you get to the last 7 minutes and 30 seconds of the fourth line, the cross changes, and the 10:15 of the vessel is replaced by the 58 and the 52. So we have the 46, 25, 52, 58, and this is the juxtaposition cross of serendipity. These people are fixed on being in their thing, in their doing, in the now. And they have enormous energy to be fixed. Notice that the 10 and 15 goes away, but they're replaced by the two most important adrenal gates. That is, the two adrenal gates for the logical process. So there's a great capacity to be focused, and there's a great capacity to work. The left angle cross is the left angle cross of healing. This is the second time we've seen this variation. Please remember that in right angle crosses, each arm is experienced through the position of the personality sun. So there's 4 variations for each right angle cross. But there are only 2 variations for each left angle cross. There's 32 of them as opposed to the 16 right angles. These left angle crosses, the position that changes is the position of the personality sun and earth. Those are the 2 variations. The design always remains the same. So we began by looking at the left angle cross of healing through the sun in the 25, and here we see it in the 46. The 46-5, the universalization of being in the right place at the right time. Parallels in human design. The 15-5 and the 46-29 both control rhythms. They have similarities to each other. In the same way that the right rhythm and pattern always brings success, and the wrong rhythm and pattern always brings failure. These are 2 aspects of the same global collective process. Pacing, the moon exalted, maintenance of proper rhythm, and you can see the language here of the 15 and the 46. The maintenance of proper rhythm that in its instinctive practicality avoids radical divergence from successful patterns. Here's this key word for the 5th lines, practicality. The determination to stay with the rhythm which brings success. Now look, that rhythm means that you're not always in, because if you're always in, you don't get the power that comes from being there. You know, the general comes in times of crisis, and it comes in with a practical experience that it can sink into, and that others can be called to. And then it gets out. It gets out to reflect on that, to see what it has learned from being in that experience, and what the others have learned by being in that experience. And out of that comes new knowledge. That is, out of that comes new applications and techniques that are eventually revealed through the 3313. Neptune in detriment, an irrational rejection of the very patterns that have proven successful. That is, determined to say no to the very rhythm that brings success. One of the things about the 5th line is that because it withdraws, the moment it is successful, it can live off that for a long time. And there's always a risk of re-engaging unless the experience is correct. And there's always a risk of re-engaging unless it's the right timing. And everything about this is timing. You know, you've got a lot of people, what was Andy Warhol's trip about? Everybody gets 15 minutes of fame or something? You know, you got a lot of people in this country who've had one moment in the light and they hold on to it until they're dead. You know, you see them on these game shows on television, you know. I mean, you do. You see them out there. You know, they've had their one moment of success and they hold on to that for the rest of their life. And they know damn well if they try again that they'll fry, so they don't. It's the other side of this. They hold the projection field for a very long time. So there are those that will re-engage after a while, and there are those 5th lines that will not. This is the left angle cross, after all, of healing. And it's the only cross of healing. So it's very important to understand that pacing is what heals us. The right timing heals us. And the right timing is just being yourself. When you are yourself, you are on time. It's one of those things to recognize. You're not distorting your timing. You're not interfering. You're not trying to assume the timing of a creature that's not you. So that the moment that you are yourself, this is as healthy as you can be. Timing brings health. Integrity, the 6th line. The wisdom to secure one's identity through careful consideration of the restrictive potential of commitments. The determination to say no to restrictive commitments. We know that the other side, the 29, is the gate of saying yes. It wants to know ultimately what to say yes to. And the 46 ultimately wants to know what to say no to. And it's very important for the 46 to know what to say no to. It has to say no to any experience that it cannot be in innocently and existentially. The moment of expectation is the moment of potential failure. Neptune in detriment. Deceiving oneself and others by overextending one's resources and eventually being in a position of having to break promises. A drive for success that will not say no and will end up breaking promises. The promises refer to expectation as a theme here. You see, these people who can be successful, these are not individual successes. These are not the individual freak entrepreneur. This is not a tribal business. This is not the mom-pa store. This is collective success. It is about sharing success. And the serendipity, the byproduct of the serendipity, is expected to be shared. There's a lot of people that can get very annoyed with that. The 6 gets up on top of its hill and says, look, I know that I can be in the experience, but they can't. And if they can't, I'm going to get distracted. And then it's not going to work, and it's pointless. So they wait for the right collective environment. They wait for the right collective environment that they see can enter into experience for the experience alone. And of course, they are great judges of what experiential way can bring discovery to others. Don't do that. You'll be too distracted. You won't be able to stay into that. And don't think about what that's going to bring you. The advice, the knowledge is rooted here in this 6th gate. Integrity. The drive for success that will not say no and will end up breaking promises. And of course, what happens to it is it gets into that collective process with the wrong collective force, and it breaks the promise because it does not bring success. It will bring failure. And this is success and failure is about your spirit, your essence. The 46 as a gate of love. The love of the body begins with the acceptance that your body is correct for you. And this brings me to a very important point about the importance of living out your own nature. You only have the body that is your body when you're living out your nature. The not self can be terribly thin or terribly fat. The not self can be tied up in knots or not. The not self is many, many things, but that's not your body. We have a worldwide industry based on trying to make not-self bodies comfortable. You know, you do massage on the not-self body. Now, you may be able to bring minor relief for a certain period of time, but it does not change that body. That body remains the not-self body. The moment that you live out your own nature, you will discover that you get the body you deserve. You get the chemistry you deserve. You hold the amount of water that's necessary for you. You contain and have the amount of fat that's necessary for you. And then you can live with that vehicle in peace. And learn to recognize that being in your body without expectation is the ultimate spiritual trip. And that's why this gate is so important. Loving yourself begins with loving your vehicle. To see that you have the right body. That it's the right body for your journey. And you can't see that unless you're being yourself. I have met so many generators that are intellectual vegetarians. Blows my mind. You think they have their body? They have their mind's idea of what their body should be. They don't have their body. They only know what belongs in that body when they're asked. Very simple thing for generators, by the way, because generators always ask these questions that drive me nuts. When you go to a restaurant, ask the waiter what they recommend. And you'll begin to learn what you want to eat. You go into a restaurant and say, what's good tonight? And they go, well, we've got this. And you go, uh-uh. And they say, well, we got this. And you go, uh-huh. You find out what's there for you to eat. And in the moment that you're responding to diet, instead of dictating diet, your body changes, becomes your body. Being yourself is more than just a kind of spiritual game. It's about accepting your form. And it's your form that gets sick and dies. It's your form that gets confused and suffers from fear. It's not these crystals. Forget all that. We live in a vehicle. To be yourself is to honor this vehicle. You honor the vehicle, everything works correctly. And that includes the quality and color of your hair, the quality of your skin, the way in which you walk, the way in which you talk, everything. Everything. See, we're born to be conditioned to be sick. That's our tragedy. We're born to be conditioned to be sick instead of being educated to be healthy. And there's been an enormous complaint in our society that there is not enough preventive medicine. It's because they don't bloody well know anything. They don't. They don't know the way in which the mechanics really operate. They have their scientific perspectives and cubbyholes, but they don't know how that works. And you know how that works. Be healthy. Be yourself. How nice.